Okay, so now the CNN commentary goes on and on and on, and it's worth watching some more of it just for laughs. I mean, Rick Wilson is a Republican. You know, they always have these kind of Republican guys who hate Trump because they think it's good. Listen to this guy. I mean, this is their commentary on this speech. And by the way, we should point out that there's news in this speech, too. First of all, he did some hilarious stuff. You know, they told him don't go after John McCain. So he says, I'm not going after John McCain. I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but we lost the health care by one vote. I'm not mentioning any names, but one vote. And then he talks about Sheriff Joe Arpaio, because he's been talking about pardoning him. And he says, I'm not going to do anything controversial, but Sheriff Joe is going to be okay. It's like, I just have a feeling he's going to be okay. I mean, he was having a blast. He's having a blast, and it's such funny stuff. So they're not dealing with the news. Oh, and he actually made news about the border. He's talking about the border. Remember, he and Mitch McConnell are having this feud, and this has been in the New York Times. Mitch McConnell and Trump really don't like each other, and they're going after each other, and Trump is obviously frustrated with the health care vote. And McConnell says, there's no way we're shutting the government down. There's no way we're not going to raise the budget level. And Trump had this to say about the border. This is cut number 2.
One by one, we are finding the gang members, the drug dealers, and the criminals who prey on our people. We are throwing them out of the country, or we're putting them the hell fast in jail. We are cracking down on the sanctuary cities that shield criminal aliens, finally. And we are building a wall on the southern border, which is absolutely necessary. Build that wall. Now, the obstructionist Democrats would like us not to do it, but believe me, we have to close down our government. We're building that wall. Let me be very clear to Democrats in Congress who oppose a border wall and stand in the way of border security. You are putting all of America's safety at risk. You're doing that.
So there's news. There's news at this thing. He's making news. He's saying we'll close the government. He's saying he's going to pardon Joe Arpaio. He took a swipe at John McCain, which is news. Here's Rick Wilson's commentary. This is like a guy supposedly commenting on the news.
He alternated between being a whiny 6-year-old who's had his Nintendo taken away and between being the cranky old man who's out there condemning everyone who doesn't worship him adequately. It was an astounding moment in our history. And I know the 25th Amendment is a remote possibility, but if people around him don't think that this guy is absolutely bat crap crazy, they are mistaken.
It's like the bat calling the kettle crap there, you know. It's just unbelievable stuff. You know, Scott Adams said this thing, and I wish I had said this because I actually thought it, but Scott Adams got there first, and he said he's the Dilbert guy. Very, very good commentator, very observant guy. And he said there are going to be 3 stages to Donald Trump, and I have noticed this too. The first stage is he's literally Hitler. Okay, now we've passed that stage, and we've gotten to he's crazy and he's incompetent. You know, now it's, he can't do the job. We need to remove him. He can't do the job. But that's different than he's Hitler, because he's obviously not Hitler. You know, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything like that we know of, like Obama did, abusing the IRS, corrupting the Justice Department. None of that stuff has happened. The executive orders have mostly been against executive orders that were put in place with Obama. So he hasn't violated any of the norms of American governance. He's violated the norms of American conversation and American political discourse, but he hasn't violated any of the norms, the much more important norms of American governance. So the Hitler phase is past. Now we're in the incompetent phase. He's not worthy to be president and all that. And finally, Adams says we're going to get to the phase where they just don't like his policies. And once they get there, they're done, because most of America actually will like his policies. They will. I mean, he's a middle of the road guy in most of his policies. He's got some conservative stuff, some liberal stuff. There's going to be stuff he does that's going to drive me crazy as a conservative, stuff he does that's going to drive the liberals crazy, the liberals crazy, people crazy as liberals. But basically basically, he's not that radical a dude, except in what he's attacking, except in attacking the state, except in attacking the regulations and all these things. And remember, the press, this crazy press, is now an organ of that state. That's who they're an organ of. They are an organ of the people who are in place without us, whether we elect them or not. And those are the people that Trump offends the most. Got to hear one more cut from that CNN thing. It was really funny. Here is, let's try cut 5. This is kind of an array of different people.
The only possible defensible explanation for Trump's disgusting, unpresidential, narcissistic behavior would be early onset dementia. Maybe. She's not the only one who's been saying. Some people have been saying that for months. I mean, but listen, we don't know if that. But if he is, has he shown that he's fit for office?
No,
especially in this moment?
Absolutely not, Don. But to Bakari's point, this is something that, frankly, the majority of Americans who did not vote for this man understood just how unfit he was to be the occupant of the Oval Office. Tonight, I think, was historic on a couple of levels. The first one is, yes, I do believe that after tonight, a lot of people are going to be thinking that he's not just completely unfit, that he's just not completely ill-equipped to hold this office, but that he might be psychotically demented and ill, of the mind in order to take this office.
So, the other thing, while this is going on, by the way, if you can see the chyron on the CNN thing, is protests in street after Trump's angry, divisive speech, as if Trump were to blame for the fact that these clowns are rioting. They're rioting in the streets. They're beating people up. My favorite moment, of course, was cut number 9, if you've got it, the video of this lefty moron who throws the tear gas back at the police, so the police just fire one right in his ghoulies. Just takes it. You can see this. Can you play this? Can you play the video?
You just saw one of the protesters go up there and actually kick a can of that.
Yeah, that are kicking.
That doesn't.
I got that guy that you're looking at right now just got hit with what I think is with a rubber bullet. He was hurt.
All right, we got to get to the mailbag. I want to play one last cut before we go, though. It's Mike Shields, an ex-RNC guy, on another panel on CNN, and he comes on and he tells them the simple truth that if they could listen to him, they could really take Trump on. They could take Trump on because we know Trump has his flaws. He has big personality flaws and all this stuff. They could take him on, but they can't. And Shields explains why really articulately.
The president spent a tremendous amount of time tonight criticizing the media. And it's right to push back on that. It's right to hold him accountable. It's right to fact check him. But immediately after that, when the conversation shifts into he's insane and he's unfit for office and he's lost his mind and we're doing psychoanalysis on television of the president, you're doing his work for him. This is almost what he wants to see happen, is that he criticizes the media and the media themselves are unhinged and start calling the president insane. I think that's a huge mistake. I also think it's a mistake not to call the protesters, left-wing protesters that are in Arizona right now fighting the police. I think that's a mistake as well. I think if you could do those things, not call the president insane and just fact-check him and call the protesters out for who they are, you gain the credibility ground that you need to push back on the president when he gives a speech like this. But you're almost doing his work for him when we start calling him insane. So that's the first comment that I have to make about that.
Well, that's not only true, but of course, I don't know if they can get their credibility back after 8 years of giving Obama a pass on every single thing. I mean, I think that's the problem. All right.